right, so good evening, everybody. Glad you decided to take this step and get your real estate journey started. So I'm going to just start out by number one. The first question is introducing yourselves. So we'll start from this and kind of go down. If you can give me your name, where you're from, and what's your preferred investment strategy. And before you get started, I should probably introduce my own self and my investment strategies. Amber Gray, Lloyd mentioned I am the Vice President of STLREIA. Right now, my investment strategy, I'm all over the board. So I have an Airbnb, I have buy and hold, I've wholesaled some properties, fix and flips. I've done multiple different things. I haven't really decided which ones I like, but I do have multifamilies. That's really my sweet spot right there, is multifamilies. So I probably prefer that over anything else. But like I mentioned, the Airbnb does well as well. So that is a little bit about myself. I've been in real estate for, I don't know, honestly, I grew up in it, my family did it for a while, but as far as my own real estate investments, probably at least 10 years. So that's a little bit about me.
Well, my name is Heath Lumen, and I live in Chesterfield, originally from Minnesota, but married a St. Louis girl, so we live in Chesterfield now. We do some, we got into it to do flipping, and we decided, there was a good opportunity to do a buy and hold, so what comes up and sense of the opportunity. So.
Hello, I'm Demetrius Outlaw. I'm from St. Louis right now, living in Florissant, and by profession, I'm a home remodeler, and working to move over into full-time investing. My preferred strategy at this point is tax liens, like purchasing properties on back taxes and buy and hold. Wanting to get into fix and flips a little later, but really just want to build up the monthly income to be free to do that. So.
Yeah, my name is Jing Liu. I am a CPA, certified public accountant, but I'm retired a couple years ago. I bought over 40 properties in the last 14 years. I bought my first one in 2008. My investment strategy is buy, update, and hold it for rent. But I did so. We used to live in Illinois. After we moved to here, St. Louis, about 10 years ago. So I kind of sold the properties over there. But mainly it's buy and hold for rent.
I'm Sandra Holtmeyer. I'm like I said before, wholesaler, rehabber, landlord, realtor. I've done probably, I've lost count, but probably over 100 transactions of various sorts. The first strategy is rentals, but when the market prices made a lot of good money, so right now I'm using that money to rehab. So that's my current preferred strategy, but I'm doing that to bank money to buy more rentals when interest rates go down a little bit. So that's what I like to do. I really like doing all of it. I got my license so I can sell my properties, and it all works together. But rentals is really my favorite one. My fiance was going to sell one of his rentals. He's frustrated with it. I'm like, I'll take it over. I'll do it. The power of real estate. He's held it long enough now. His cash flow, his spread's going to be like almost $1,000 a month cash flow, and he's only held it 6 years. So that's the smile on his face. Yeah, that's the power of the real estate. So rentals is really, that's why I love rentals the most.
Okay, we'll start down there. Okay, so question number 2. What's the best deal you've ever done? And this doesn't have to necessarily deal with money, but when you sit back and you think, yeah, that was a great accomplishment. So what's the best deal that you've ever done?
It started as a rental. I had a rental property and I was screening the tenant, and when I called his soon-to-be prior landlord just to get the reference, she gave him a great reference and said, well, I've got 2 rental properties, are you buying any more? I'd like to get rid of them, I don't know what to do with them. She was in Kansas, retired, medical problems, didn't know anyone in St. Louis. So being at the right place at the right time, scooped up 2 great deals. So I'll talk about both real quick because I bought them together kind of as a package. One was a house in Warrenton, and one was in Wright City, and that's a little bit further out than I go, but what happened during COVID? Everybody's moving out further, right? So scooped those up, but she said if I just paid what her husband bought them for 10 years earlier on foreclosure, she'd be happy. Like, well, you know they're worth more than that, right? Like in good conscience,
Walk
we all wanna
away,
make money.
she said what she said.
I know, but I just had to throw it out there, like, they're worth more than that. She said, not to me, they're not. They've been rentals for 10 years. They've more than paid for themselves. I'm tired of owning them. It was the motivation was the stress for her. So, the one in Warrenton, I bought and kept it as a rental for a while and then sold it for $100,000 more than I paid. I only held it 2 years, but I got it so cheap, and then, so that was my best deal. So listen to people, talk to people, it just fell into my lap. But her other one, I made, let's see, I wholesaled it to a wholesaler, and she paid me a $20,000 fee, and then wholesaled it to a landlord, and she charged him an $18,000 fee, and he still got it at such a great price. We were all happy, and it was a win for everybody. So there was that much spread in it. So that was, kind of a combined deal.
Yeah.
So far, I bought over 40 properties. I don't think I lose money for any of my properties. Couple pretty good, one property I bought it I paid for 75,000, and I sold it a few years, has been rented, 1,200 a month. But later on, we sold it since we moved to St. Louis for 175, and I sold it myself, so no agent fees.
So
Another
triple
one,
deal you made. Double deal, triple deal.
yeah, another one is sold it to my tenant. And they are happy too, because that house, they bought it for like 91,000, market value probably like 150. I paid like 26 a few years ago, and I rented it for 5-6 years. I have my money already recovered, but they are very happy too, since they also get a good deal.
So there's a small theme going there, and you can take the mic if you want, but the first 2 ladies definitely said they haven't lost money, right? So there's always some way to, someone in this room, you may not want the property, but someone else. So try and find a win-win for everybody. You never want a win-lose situation. You never know what someone's going through, but if you can meet in the middle somehow, I can guarantee someone in this room can definitely profit or benefit from the sale of that property.
I would say the best deal for me was a deal that I bought on back taxes. I took a course from here. It was a back tax course. It's offered by John. But that course allowed me to purchase a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom in North County for $7,600. We've got it rented out at $950 right now, so I'm waiting to make my money. Yeah, and we did the walkthrough on the property and found out that the house had been totally gutted and rehabbed 2 years prior, so everything in it is brand new. So that's the And it
Deal,
came with the
got
10
it. Yes.
Wow, that's awesome. Financially, we had one where we closed on the day we closed on it, we met with the lady who was wanting to sell it, and literally there was a realtor that pulled up outside the house and came up and was asking if she was going to sell the house, and we're like, well, no, we just bought it because we're going to fix it up, and like, how long is that going to take? And like, after figuring out they wanted the property, but they didn't want the house, so they were actually going to pay us just whatever we wanted to make on it, and we don't have to actually do anything to the house. They would just pay that plus our profit. And I'm like, okay. So that was really easy, but it wasn't a lot of fun because we didn't get to do a whole lot. There was another property that we closed on it in February, like the end of February of 2020. And then March happened, and then everything closed down, and everyone had to be at home and all that kind of stuff. But we had a house to work on. So my wife and my son, who's in 7th grade, and we would just go up and we would work on this house on all evenings and weekends, and we got to know the neighbors. There's a nice guy who had a shoe shine business next door. We did some tree work for him. There's a homeless man that lived down the street, and he was asking for work because he was hungry, so we had him come in and do work for us and do some yard work and do different things. And so we were paying him, and it was a lot of fun during a hard time just to connect with people.
All right, so we're gonna go to the opposite. What is the worst deal you've ever done, and what did you learn from it? Because there's a lesson in everything. So what did you learn from it?
We invested in a property in Texas. So we had just done our first flip. It worked out well. We were happy with it. We're like, hey, people know how to do this. And someone else, someone that we knew in one of the investing classes was like, I've got this property down in Texas. It's an up and coming area. It's going to be great. Just invest with me. I'll take care of everything. I don't know if it was his fault, if it was that the contractor was bad, if it was the title company that wasn't really a title company, or there was probably a whole bunch of different problems with it. So that one did not go well. We ended up, anything that we invested, we just lost it. So we learned a lot through that process. And probably the biggest thing is, if we can't touch it, we're probably not going to invest in it. That we are going to do something that we have some type of control on. We can't control everything, but at least, we're not going to drive down to Texas and talk to people. But if it's in the St. Louis area, if it's something that we can actually go do, even if we don't do the work, we want to be able to get there.
I agree. So I know that there's a lot of properties that it sounds appealing, especially in Missouri, to buy properties here because they're cheaper. But to your point, if I can't touch it, I'm out. So, and I say that as far as just expand your mind. I have other properties in Kansas City, which is on the other side of Missouri. If something happens, which my tenant has called and there's water leaking from the ceiling, I can get to that property in 4 hours. Don't judge my driving, but I can get down there if I need to. But my family is also from Kansas City, so I can call my aunt, my uncle, whomever, my dad when he was alive, run down there and handle this for me. So just don't be pigeonholed to this city, but definitely think about the state when you're looking at investing.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. When you said, spoke about, went in and purchased an LRA property in North City. The property wasn't bad. It was a great deal. A guy that picked it up for $1,100. It's a 5-bedroom, 2-bathroom house. It's 3 stories with a basement. And, me being a new real estate investor and an experienced contractor, thinking I can run in and be Superman and do it all myself. I started in on phase 1. We got everything demoed out. Then started in on the second phase, the rough in phase. We started putting in piping and putting in electrical, and ran out of money. We took a break to get some money back up. By the time we got the money back up and got back, they broke it in and taken all of the electric out, all of the plumbing out, and so I went back in a second time, and this time, instead of, I worked with the contractors, and they allowed me to do the work myself so I could save some money on it. So I did it again, and then took another break, and here we go. I boarded everything up this time, and they took the boards down and went in and took all the electrical back out. This time they got electrical tools and everything. So that, for me, has been the worst. Yeah. The lesson that I got from that is use someone else's money so I can go ahead and get it done.
Yeah.
Stop playing.
Yeah. So just really quickly, because you mentioned LRA, everybody in the room may not know, so can you explain?
So LRA is land reutilization.
Yeah.
Land reutilization authority. And it's a panel in the city that handles all the vacant houses that don't sell in the back tax auctions. And so these houses, I mean, there are a lot of them in St. Louis. You really got to do your due diligence and homework riding around. I like riding around, so I find a handful of deals a lot of times. But you got to do your homework, because standing at the front of the building, it looks perfectly fine. But when you walk around the back, the whole back of the building is just gone. So, but that's what it is, the Land Reutilization Authority, and then they, a lot of times they got good deals if you can find them.
Yeah, and it's the same with the back taxes. I speak from personal experience. I went down to the city, super excited. Me and my dad went down there. I won my first one because, it's very contentious. This is what I'll use. And then I think I bought it for $3,000. We went not too far away, I would say probably about 10-minute drive, and the roof was gone. I quickly gave that property away. So ride around and see these properties before, I just am not doing that. Someone else could have done that, but do your due diligence before you buy the properties.
Make sure you get out and look around.
Actually, I have a similar experience. Couple properties I bought, I just drove by without, go inside, look at the property. I said, oh wow, that's looks nice in the front, and then in a nice neighborhood, so I just bought it. And when I go in, I say, wow, there's a big hole in the ceiling. But we managed to, we had to review the house. But we did another license I learned is when you buy back tax sale properties, especially if you sell, you have to file a title suit by an attorney with support. That takes about 4 months because I learned that the hard way. One time, last year I tried to sell a house. I totally forgot. I learned that a while ago, but I just didn't think about that until I have the offer, and we went all the way to the title company, and then they said, oh, you need to file quiet title. And then first my attorney said, oh, I should get it done quick because I find that person, but I should take him 4 months. So we have to sign the mutual release, have that done, but I just kind of put the house for rent again.
My worst deal was a rehab I did up in Florissant. And there's always surprises, right? You're building contingency and miscellaneous costs and, budget factor, whatever you want to call it. This house was on almost 3 acres, and I got it from a wholesaler, and they suspected the septic was bad, but they weren't sure, so I just had to assume that, right? So budget that, I budgeted like $22,000, and it took every bit of that. And that wasn't the worst part of it, but that was the first one I did that was on septic. I kept passing up deals because I was afraid of the work and the cost, but now that I've done one, I'm not afraid of that. But what happened was when the prior owners, and these people have been living there, sometimes I'm so surprised how people will live in a house with so much mold. They just closed off the basement. The septic had backed up at one point, kept working, but they didn't fix the basement. They just closed the door. They were elderly, they didn't use the basement anymore, so there was mold. And I could see that there was mold in the floor joists and the rafters. I could tell, right? The white powdery stuff. What I didn't realize is that mold was everywhere on every surface in the entire basement, and it was finished, and I was just gonna fix up the basement a little bit, and it ended up being a complete gut job. And it was a huge ranch, so it was basically like rehabbing 2 stories instead of 1. So I ran way over on budget, and I pretty much broke even on it. So it's never fun to break even. At least I didn't lose. But it took so long because of that. It added extra time, which kept racking up expenses, our holding costs. But because of the trucks and everything that were there, and the dumpsters there extra long, the asphalt driveway wasn't in great shape to begin with. Well, after all of that, it needed to be fixed, so like there was another $6,000, and it just, but the people that bought it were thrilled because they walked away from another contract because the septic was bad, so they were thrilled to get one with a brand new septic. And I learned a lot, but what I really learned is if you suspect mold and you're not sure how bad it is, he did teach me, take a flashlight and like shine it on the doors and the walls, and if you see like powdery stuff, it's probably everywhere, or call your guys. A lot of these, I generally do a sewer inspection, and then I'll call either the basement guys or the mold guys, and because that cost me easily like $15,000 extra to refinish the basement, so do your due diligence.
Let's see, okay, so you're all seasoned investors, but if you had to go back in time, what advice would you give yourself if you were starting out today?
There's so much, it's a long list. I would have gotten an assistant sooner because I'm not good at everything. So I would have just hunkered down, even if I had to borrow money, to get a part-time assistant to help with marketing, postcards, some of the things that I just didn't have time to do while I was learning some of the other things. So I would say, overall, really just invest in yourself sooner. A lot of us, we don't have the money, but there's ways to do that. So I would have, marketing and pay somebody to help me, because it was just an uphill climb that first 2 years learning all that myself, and trying to make money at the same time.
But you learned a lot, because you
I
did
did
yourself.
learn a lot. That's true, I know how to do it. I don't want to do it, I don't like marketing, that's not my thing. But yeah, it's because how are you gonna train somebody to do it if you don't know how to do it? I don't want to pay for a marketing company or a big marketing professional. I want to pay, a local hourly person or a college kid or somebody that is reasonably priced or will do deal splits with you or something.
Well, I think if, go back, I probably, start, early, invest. But I know I was really, really busy, has full-time job, and also travels internationally, like 20–30%. But I think, that really pays off. Over the years, just compounding your profits, that can grow really, really quick.
For me, it is mental and money. So I grew up working hard and having bad credit, and that was, we didn't talk money in my father's home. So when I got out, I got a student loan, messed up my debt, and had been messing with that ever since. I'm still working on paying that off now. But the motivation is there now that I see how that's crippling me in the real estate game. And so for me, it's keeping your credit together no matter what. And then the second thing is transformation. Like, keep your mind open and be willing to learn new things. You got to realize that who you are today is not who you need to be to do whatever it is you want to do. Like, if you'd asked me 10 years ago, the Demetrius 10 years ago wouldn't think that I would have to be who I am today to fix and flip a house, or just doing whatever it takes. You gotta just have an open mind, and be willing to learn. So transformation for me and credit.
Nice. I'd build off that. I'd say three things. One, get connected, stay connected. Two, be curious. And three, to don't give up. So I would say get connected, because even if you don't have the answers, someone does. And we have learned so much from this group and from so many other people that we know that are investors, and just, well, how do you do this? What about this? What happens when this, just someone has an answer. Maybe not always a good answer, but those are fun too. But stay connected with people. The second one of just be curious. It's so hard. I know everything, I got it, I'll just do it my own way. Man, no, always be hungry. What else could I be doing? What else could I learn? Stay curious, kind of like what you were saying, Demetrius. And then I'd say the last one, don't give up. Because the biggest thing in investing is problem solving. You are always trying to solve a problem, and you don't know what the problems are. But there are going to be problems. And how do you just not give up? How do you keep looking? You don't give up, just keep going.
Excellent. All right, our final question is anything else you'd like to share? So, are you looking for houses, your niche areas, contractors, partners, money, anything? What else would you like to tell those who are here or online? And then if you don't mind, if you have social media or you want to be contacted, how can people contact you?
Yeah, you can contact us. I mean, Kristen's writing the newsletter, you can write to her or else, or me. And we're usually here, so come up and talk to us. That's probably the biggest thing. Like, would love to talk to you. And if you want a phone number or email, then ask for that too. Right now, we are looking, I know we had some of the Eastern Missouri, Legal Services of Eastern Missouri come in, and it was awesome having Lamont Franks here last time, and just, he brought a lot of energy. They needed 4 of us to try to match, a piece of his energy, but I don't know that we're doing great, sorry. But I would say, we're looking at how can we partner with some of those groups that are trying to help the city be better, and I love that initiative. So gonna try to go to a housing association this week and talk to them about maybe a way to partner with them. So that's something that we're interested in doing, and would love to do more of that. To be able to say, we've mostly kind of drifted different parts of the county, but how do we help the city be stronger too? You don't want to just have this hollow core of St. Louis. Like, hey, how do we build up everyone and get better together with connections?
Will you restate that question, please?
Yeah, so anything else you'd like to share? So if you have a property you're selling, if you're looking for something, if you're looking for contractors, in addition, how can people reach you?
I am looking for contractors, also just looking to do deals. So for me, at this point, what I'm learning is partners are great. So getting out and networking with others is something that I'm interested in at this point.
What type of
Partners.
To partner to do what?
To partner to do residential single-family homes. Yeah, not really ready for multifamily yet. I wanna get my hands dirty with single families. Yeah. So that's for me. That's what it is. Like I said, I'm working to convert over to full-time investing from contracting. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, a couple of things I'd like to add. Start with, if you just started real estate investment, maybe consider equity line of credits. That's how I started this. I only need, just like your credit card, and you just, use whatever you need. And for me, I only need to pay interest each month. That can grow really quick. Another thing is contractors. I recommend you to sign independent contractor agreements that can protect you if something happens. Another thing is a property manager, because I know someone, she lives in Kansas, and she bought a property here and find someone to help her to manage her property. And she told me she hardly receive any rental income. And also the guy asking her to put more money because someone went in, damaged all the, electrical, plumbing, everything. So she tried to sell, and then the property manager refused to let anyone to see the house. So she just blacklisted that house. Yeah. Another thing is, I think it's very good to have a rental property inflation, and also the property appraise, the value over the time. That's very good. For the flip the house, I suggest you consider like a self-directed RA and also Roth RA. So you can, if you use that money to invest, do the flipping, and that can defer the tax. And for Roth RA, that's basically no tax.
And one other thing, you mentioned property management. So we've been talking about it just generally in this group for a couple months now. I was not aware that property managers are supposed to be real estate agents. So they should be licensed. Make sure if you have someone and you vet them, there's other stories in this group if you talk, because they say they are a property manager. Get a good, someone that you can, we have plenty of resources here, someone that you can trust, someone who has been used before, but just don't come up to someone and just give them over your hard-earned property, your asset, and then they may not let somebody in the property. That is your property, so make sure you do your due diligence when you're looking for a property manager.
I agree with the line of credit. I was gonna say the same thing. I made the mistake of when I quit my corporate job and started investing, I thought, well, I had good credit, I had my tax returns, I thought I can show that I had income. But what I didn't do is get a line of credit before I quit my W-2 job. So if you're still working a paycheck job, get a line of credit if you can before you quit, and if you become a full-time investor, or if you only pay the interest. So if you don't use it, it's like a credit card, it doesn't cost you anything if you just let it sit there, but I can't tell you how many people I've told that to, and some listen and some don't, and the ones that didn't say I should have done that before I quit my job, because then you can't get a bank loan until you've been self-employed long enough to have 2 years of tax returns, which is year 3. So that was a hard lesson. But the other thing I was gonna say too is, try to set up some private money lenders. I need more, I have 5, but sometimes it's not enough if their money's out, or I get another deal, right? You know, I mean, I've got a couple that are pretty generous, but I'm not their only client. So I'm looking for more private money, and frankly, money one way or the other has been my biggest barrier, and it's caused me to hold back and maybe not make an offer or make as strong of an offer as I could have sometimes, because I'm afraid I can't get that money. I will, even as a wholesaler, I won't put it under contract unless I know I can close on it or I know I can assign it. I'm not gonna pull back from somebody and say, sorry, I can't really buy your property. I just won't do that. So get some money lined up one way or the other. Hard money is a good way to start if that's where you need to start. I've done hard money too, and it serves a fantastic purpose. But yeah, get money one way or the other.
Curious, because I have a HELOC, but I got it just on a whim. Just have it just in case I ever need it. In your opinion, what would be a good interest rate for a HELOC?
Right now, if you can get 7, I think that's pretty good. But even before rates got so high, I was paying 5.5. You know, we can't get the cheapest rates as investors because we're not living in these properties. You know, it's a riskier investment for the bank. So 5.5 is about the cheapest I've gotten it in the 5 years I've been borrowing money from banks. So right now 7 is, I don't even know if you can get 7.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, most charge prime plus 0.5 or prime plus 1, but sometimes they'll give you a little bit better deal for a short amount of time, you know, I mean, but yeah, money's expensive right now, but that's why I like private lenders. Some of my private lenders, as long as I'm helping them make more than they would otherwise, you know, I mean, of course they might might like 10 or 20%, but these aren't greedy people. They're grateful that they know their money's being invested in the local real estate market. They know me, they trust me, they see what I'm doing, they know I'm helping them grow their money, and they're not gouging me. We have a fair agreement and it works.
Nice. All right, well, that is all the questions that I had. I guess we'll take it to the audience to see if there's any.
I'll take the mic here. And okay, see Amanda over here. Looks like she's got a question for somebody. Why don't you tell? Oh yeah, okay. You maybe got an answer for somebody about HELOCs.
So we don't do HELOCs, but we do have a business line of credit. So even if you have already quit your W-2 job, the business line of credit goes into your business. So we do check your personal credit score, but you don't have to bring W-2s and tax returns to get the business line of credit. I know that because I quit my W-2 job. This is I-9 for the consulting, and so that's not what banks like to see. And so I talked to them specifically about that question, and they can get you the line of credit without having the W-2 job or tax returns.
Okay, nice to know. Okay, who else has got a question for somebody on the panel, or a general one? You want to open it up?
Yep,
Good afternoon. My name is Christina Thurman. This is my first meeting, so this has been great. I do have a question. You mentioned that you do Airbnb. So I just was curious about the short-term rental market in the St. Louis area. Just curious about, you know, what that looks like, how is it going, so on and so forth. Thank you.
So yes, short term, I do, my Airbnb, I do short term and midterm. So midterms is how I started, but when I did not have a nurse in there or a professional, blue collar professional, if you will, I switched over to Airbnb. I market on both of them, but it's been great. I mean, the amount that I make back on it is excellent. That's actually in one of my duplexes. So upstairs is a full-time resident, and downstairs is the short or midterm. But I'm closer to Barnes Jewish, so that's one of my driving. It's 10-minute drive over to Barnes. But yeah, it's since I started, it hasn't gone vacant. Other than when I didn't have a nurse in there for. Usually their contracts are 3 to 6 months, and then they can extend after that. But yeah, once I didn't have a nurse in there for maybe 1 month after that Airbnb, and then still nurses were going to Airbnb because they didn't know the other resources that most people use. But yeah, it's been great.
Okay, who else has got a question? Oh, I see a hand over there, thank you.
Yeah, hi Jeff. Jeff Plumley, it's my first meeting. Thank you for sharing your experiences. I do have some real estate, some rental properties. I'm from Kansas, now I'm here, so I definitely get to have a good property manager. I'm 1 for 2 right now. So question for you guys. So I've been in St. Louis for about 8 years. I do want to start investing, and I think where I'd like to start investing will be probably some rehabs. I guess a couple things, like where do you find like really good contractors who you can kind of work with, and you know, it's networking, I'm sure, but how do you find some of these contractors that you know you could, because I'm handy enough. I think, Demetrius, you're inspiring me a little bit, do what you have to. I can, but to a degree, and I also have a regular 9 to 5 or 6 to 5 or 6 to 6 job. That I'm doing now. So kind of looking for, how do you guys make contact with these guys? And maybe some won't share, but just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing. I'll let, Sandra's probably done the most, but I'll pass along.
If I could put in 2 cents, just being a contractor, using other contractors as well. When I first started out, there was an old guy that told me, Home Depot, 6, 7 a.m., and he wasn't kidding. That's where all the guys at that time point is where all most of your reputable contractors are. You get a good list that you can filter through there. Other than that, it's been asking other investors, other fix and flippers. Yep.
I've heard that before too. The good contractors are up early. They start at 7 o'clock. They'll be at Home Depot between 6 and 7 getting their supplies. And by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they're done and on their way home.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also, you can ask the contractors, and they can refer you. Yes, yeah.
The only other way I have gotten them, in addition to what they've said, is if I drive by a house that's being rehabbed, I'll stop and talk to the guys, like, especially if I can see what they're doing, exterior work or, and then somebody taught me early on, and it's so true, don't go after the guys with the fanciest, most expensive looking truck or van. You want the guys that don't even have a marked truck. Like, I've had the best luck with just local guys, small crew, 1 or 2 man crew. I have used bigger crews that were referred to me by other investors that I know and trust, but we're pretty tight-lipped. When we get one we like, we don't want to share, and because we don't want to lose them, to be perfectly honest. Like, I have one right now, he's my main guy, he's just a one-man show, and he works for me and one other investor, and that's it. So I can't even share him, and he doesn't want me to give his name out. But you're right, other contractors, ask, who have you worked with that you like? They'll tell you, they'll tell on each other. Don't call this electrician, or this guy was good, or yeah, ask each other, but.
And a lot of times just knowing who to avoid, like I said, they'll tell you the bad ones. Can save you a lot of headaches too. That's where it's some good advice.
There's a couple of Facebook groups too. You guys can help me out. One is, that's one, and then Deals Gone Bad is the other one. So check, and take some of that with a grain of salt, but there's names out there, people you can talk to.
Hi there, Ann Bollinger. It is my first in-person meeting, but I'm frequently on the Friday calls. I have a question for the gentleman on that side. You were talking about your transaction in Texas and the challenges, I think, with the realtor, the contractor, and the title company. So I wonder if you can elaborate a little bit more, especially on the title company, what errors were made.
So it was one of those, like, we learned that you can invest with your IRA if you have a self-directed IRA. So we thought, oh, this is great. The money's just sitting there. It's probably going to be better than the stock market. So let's do a self-directed IRA. And we didn't know how complicated it would be to get the money from a self-directed IRA into this kind of investment area. It was way too easy. Like, they didn't ask questions. They're like, sure, transfer the money over. Any of the local title companies that you work with, Investors Title is probably flexible. Like, they're gonna be a little bit easier to work with than some of the other ones that are more, do everything a certain way. But because Investors Title, they know that you have to be flexible. But I would say they were like, just didn't even ask questions. They took the money. We went back to them and saying, where did you actually send the money after we got it to you? And they're like, we can't tell you that. And like, oh my gosh. So like, there were a lot of other issues too. So the title company hardly ever causes a problem, but when they do, it's a big problem. So just to be careful there. Does that help? Or?
I was gonna say, I have a self-directed IRA as well, and I didn't run into that much of an issue. I mean, it was pretty simple, but self-directed IRAs, you have to make sure it's titled correctly, and they tell you what to put on there, and in my case, the title company messed up and I put my name on it. No, it has to be a specific, what they tell you to put on there, so I had to go back and have them retitle my property because it was incorrect. But I mean, I saw that at the closing, so they had to fix it.
I'll just add one more thing to what my husband said. We joint ventured on this project. They did not file that paperwork correctly. So when he was saying we couldn't step in when we saw problems happening as partners on the deal, it's because they didn't file that paperwork correctly. So we were technically without a deed, or we weren't in second position. So there were several things. We found out later that there was some collusion between the wholesaler, the contractor, the title company to tank the deal, take the property back, half finished, and then sell it again. So there was fraud.
So I want to go back on what your name now. Amber. When you said that your Airbnb was like more Jewish, you were saying the top level was like a long-term resident, I guess, and the lower level was short-term. So was there a specific way you had to, or certain guidelines you had to do to be able to make it where one was a long-term, one was a short-term rental, or it was just how you wanted to do it?
No, that's what I wanted. I wanted to make sure I was more so looking at the profit. So I made sure when I moved my tenant in upstairs, because I used to live upstairs, he covered the mortgage, and then anything on top of that was profit. So that was my strategy. But there's no reason you don't have to. You can do it any way you would like.
Yeah, that's a good strategy. I had my first two family. I did that. One rental paid the mortgage, and of course I wasn't as motivated to get the second one finished up and rent it out to me because it was already covered by one rental.
Hello, my name is Courtney. It's my first time. My question is for Sandra. I just started getting into investing and also signed up to get my real estate license. And I wasn't sure, kind of wanted to ask you if that is still something that you think is worth pursuing. My idea was I want to buy and sell my own properties. I'm on chapter 1 of getting my license, and it said that in order to buy and sell, I have to work underneath a broker. So now I'm kind of debating if that's actually a good strategy or not. So kind of wanted to take a break on that.
There's definitely two schools of thought. There's one school of thought out there that don't get your license, you know, if you have all these rules and regulations, you don't want to do that. And then the other camp is get your license because it will help you. So it has helped me tremendously. It is time consuming. We have continuing education, there's training. It's not that hard to get your license. You can really get it in a few weeks and do the online class and sit for the test. That's not that hard. But the continuing education and the time it takes to learn all of the other things and get all the applications and software and apps and access and all of that. So it's really time consuming, but for me, it's been great. You know, I'm flipping enough houses. Even as a realtor, I don't want to pay commissions. So since I list my own house, I don't pay myself commission, I just pay the buyer side. So I feel like it saved me a lot of money, gives me access to the MLS. And I like working, I say I'm a double agent. You know, I have one foot in one investing and one in retail. And when the market is shifting, I can navigate that really easily. I can do more wholesales or rehabs or pull back or do more listings and help buyers. Like I had way more listings until this summer. Now I've got more buyers. So I just like the agility it gives me to have that flexibility. But now, like my son, he's a real estate investor now, and he started to get his license. He was halfway through the class and decided not to do it because he really wants to focus more on investing and wholesaling. So we kind of collaborate. He's doing a lot of the wholesales now, and I'm doing his retail deals, and you know, that works for us. So we have to keep in mind. Talk to some brokerage. Even if you're not licensed, you can still start meeting with Ella Williams, Coldwell Banker, and with Worth Clark. They'll still talk to you. Each brokerage has different rules. Some will let you wholesale, some won't. Some want a commission on properties you sell yourself, even if you own it. Some don't. Some have their hand in your pocket the whole time. You know, so there's different things. So ultimately, my son decided not to do it because he just wanted to focus more on investing and as coach and working with him. So just I was the easy button for him, and he's the easy button wholesaling for me. So we just kind of flip-flopped it a little bit. But I personally encourage it. It's been wonderful for my business. All the investors that I work with closely and that I'm good friends with, we all do the same thing. We're all happy with what it's worked out with for us, the way it's worked out. So I'm a fan. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay.
So for those of you who own multiple properties, I've been getting mixed feedback on the idea of owning said properties under one consolidated LLC or multiple. I'm curious your opinions on that.
I've had several attorneys tell me don't have more than 3 properties in an LLC. I don't think there's any magic number. It's your tolerance level. I have 2 series LLCs I've set up, and I just put 1 property in each series. So mine have 10 in there. That's my comfort level. I might put 2 in there, but I'm never willing to risk more than I'm willing to lose. So, you know, I might be a little, well, I think people tend to be litigious, so I want to be overly protected, you know, have an umbrella policy, that kind of stuff, and not just a commercial umbrella policy, but a personal umbrella policy, you know, one that covers you and your business, because if they run out of money, they're coming after you. So that's my suggestion.
Well, my own experience, you know, I do originally, you know, a long time ago, I put my properties in LLC. But I learned from the workshop, they do recommend to put in a land trust. Do not identify. So that way, just you know, privacy. They won't find you because you know, the one of the incidents happened in Florida, and they found, you know, all his properties, because the someone fall from the roof, and they know that, that person, worth like $3 million, and they just sue him for $3 million. Basically, he lost everything, even though his property in LLC. That doesn't really help you to protect you. So that's why right now I'm, already put, my properties in land trust. So, have a rent a few box, and, no one can find it.
I can make it sweet for you. Dale Sweet is who I talk to. And the only reason I'm saying his name is because if you call him, he's a really good attorney, and he'll take the time out to explain that so you can make a good decision for yourself on that. Yep, but he's good with it.
And while we're on that topic, John is working on having an attorney for our November meeting, talking about how to hold properties, making recommendations on different ways to hold properties. So come back in November. Or you can. Okay.
Yeah, we have 8 properties and they're all in separate LLCs, and that's just our risk tolerance. So we'll make sure that they're all separate. So all individual. So ours is not even series LLCs. Like, we have separate LLCs for all 8 properties, just to be careful.
Okay. Next question. Nothing more? Okay. Well, let's give the whole group a round of applause. We appreciate you coming and sharing your experience with us. And I'm sure some people probably have some personal questions they don't want to throw out here. So maybe if you'll stick around, answer some questions, talk to people in the audience, we appreciate it. Okay, we still got the room for a little more time, so stick around and have some more refreshments. All I just ask is, a lot of us are landlords, and we don't know how we like our tenants to take all their trash with them when they leave. Just ask you to put those bottles and those wrappers in the trash can on your way out, because we are tenants of this building, and we want to make sure we can invite it back. We're welcome. Thank you all for coming. See you next month. Thank you.
Yay!